from Atlanta, Georgia. In tonight's edition of Focus on Liberia, we're going to be looking at a very important topic in our community, that is in our Liberian diaspora community, and also in Liberia. That's the issue of violence in Liberia. We want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. This is Focus on Liberia between the airlines, where during the week, sometimes things that fall between the airlines, we discuss them. So tonight we're going to be looking at the Liberian Women Advocacy to End Violence in Liberia. This is a group, and they're going to be launching this group, this advocacy group. So I'm glad to be in the midst of all these powerful women. I want to welcome Masa Washington. Masa is a co-founder of the group. Masa, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dennis, and it's a pleasure always to be on FOL.
Thank you so much. I also want to welcome the one responsible for planning. That's Elaine Saba. I call her cousin Elaine. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, cousin Dennis. I'm humbled to be here, to be among greatness. I'm pleased to be here.
Thank you so much. I also want to welcome Mrs. Beatrice Kanga Gray. Beatrice is the chairperson on research for this group. Beatrice, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dennis, for having us. It's a pleasure.
I also want to welcome the chairperson on community liaison. That's Florence F. Harris. Florence, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you so much, Dennis. I'm delighted to be here, and thank you for having us.
Last and definitely not the least, I want to welcome Ms. Nee Allison. Nee, if you can unmute yourself. Nee is the chairperson on operations. Nee, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you, Dennis.
Right. And Florence and Beatrice, this is your first time on Focus on Liberia. I want to say welcome so much. In a special way, I want to present to you a bottle of water to say welcome to Focus on Liberia.
That's a good one.
Yes, we see it.
Appreciate it. Yeah, we receive it.
Yeah, right. So this is the launch of a brand new group called the Liberian Women Advocacy to End Violence in Liberia. Let me start by saying, just briefly, a few comments from you as we start the show. Let me start with Ms. Washington.
Well, again, we are delighted to be here, and we are promising a very exciting evening for our viewers and our listeners out there in Radio Land. I'm honestly humbled. Humbled is actually an understatement to say. I'm actually really humble and grateful to the Almighty God that I have the opportunity to work with such powerful, high achieving ladies. And we have been doing some really good work in the background trying to start this organization. But I just want to say all of it will be impossible without one of us. So I just want to start by saying I really appreciate you ladies. I appreciate working with you. And let's do this.
Thank you. I want to say, Florence, welcome to just a little bit about yourself and so that my viewers will know you a little bit more.
Okay, thank you so much. Again, my name is Florence Harris, and I'm so delighted to be part of this group, working with women from different areas within Liberia and learning a lot. So I'm so excited as a community-based person. This is just something that I'm energized. This is something that, I will go out to work with my fellow Liberian ladies in tackling the menace that we have in our country. Thank you so much, Dennis.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's talk to cousin Elaine.
Yes, thank you again for having me, for having us. In this group, there are no big I's or little U's. We are an equal group. What we do, what we believe in, transcends ethnicity, transcends politics, transcends everything else but one commonality we share is the care for our people, for our country, to try to bring some sort of solution to what we see as a rise in violence in Liberia. So we're here simply because we are on one accord. We're here simply because we want to help. We want again to once more say thank you for having us here.
Thank you. Miss Allison?
Thank you, Mr. Ja. I'm so happy to be a part of this group. Um, as an advocate and a social worker, I have a lot of passion for what I do. And being a part of the group helped me with those passion that I have. We have worked so hard, every one of us collectively, and being a part of this organization with women of great ideas, women from different walks of life and different experiences. It have helped me and continue to help me to grow as we advocate for people in Liberia against violence. I'm so happy to be here and I look forward to the next step of our journey.
Thank you so much. Let me talk to Beatrice. B.
Yes, it's a pleasure as well to be here and part of this. We are, of course, will be called a new group, but we are building on the efforts of other groups, other individuals, and advocacy groups who have effortlessly, effortlessly been working over the times and still working. So we are just working on the efforts that they've made and emerge to join them. So this is why it's so exciting because the problem or the issue of violence in general is an old age issue that requires everybody to be a part of. So like I said, we emerge from the efforts of those groups and we want to thank them. So we're going to
Thank
be
you so
discussing.
much. I want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. This is a special night for me. Also, to welcome all of you to the launching of Liberian Women Advocacy to End Violence in Liberia. Let me call on Miss Washington to tell me, about this group for those of us and the many hearing the name for the first time. What is the Liberian Women Advocacy to End Violence in Liberia?
So the name, the nomenclature of the group actually speaks for basically the general concept of the group. So we have been seeing, reading every day in the media, watching every day on people's phones or videos, YouTube videos. We have been seeing violence upon violence upon violence nonstop, and we see how these different acts of violence, we see how it's crippling our country. We see how it's completely demeaning our people, how it's testing our basic humanity. And so the idea behind this group is, what can we do to help address what is happening? Violence in any society is not a good thing, because what it does is that it impedes the progress of a society. It diminishes people, like I said, it dehumanizes the citizens of that society. And so we need to come together to do something to systemically address this boogeyman that is violence. So this group was born out of the desire to, one, first out of the complete rage and disgust of what is happening with the violence that is unabated in Liberia, and two, to do something about it. Because it's one thing to be upset about something that is wrong, to not like something that is bad, but there is another thing to really want to do something about it. So this group wants to do something about the violence in the holistic and the systemic way. Like B said, we have other groups out there that have been advocating for a long time. They have also worked in their own way, using their own strategy as best as they can. So we're actually, I would say, we're actually building upon maybe some of what has happened out there. But we're hoping to bring a new approach to how we will actually address this situation of the violence. So this group came together to be able to put our resources in terms of our intellect, our experience, and whatever other resources we have as a group collectively so that it works for our country in terms of addressing the issue of violence. So the basic, the most simply or a reason we have been formed is that we want to see the violence at least decrease significantly, if not end, because we know it might be near impossible to end violence in any society, even in this great United States that we all live in, that's supposed to be the beacon of examples for how civilized societies are supposed to function. We are still dealing with the issues of violence. So we may not be able to completely 100% stop the violence, but we want to be able to work with everybody collectively to at least significantly decrease the violence, but to also
Thank
educate
you.
our people that violence is not good because it impedes all of our progress.
Thank you. And let's keep it conversational. So any of you can jump in anytime if you want to add to what Master just said. Please go ahead.
Okay.
Because I'm going to ask now any one of you. So I keep hearing the word violence, violence, violence. What is violence? And what are the different things that you refer to as violence in Liberia that you want to end? Anyone?
There's so many. I would chime in. Like Massa said, the situation in Liberia is grave. When we talk about violence, it's not only the war. We'll speak about child abuse, which is a permanent thing in Liberia now. We talk about ritualistic killing. There's an issue in Liberia, in Maryland County, that is going on. There was demonstration today about ritualistic killing. We talk about domestic abuse, domestic violence, rape. All of those are violence against people, not only women in Liberia or children, but including males. So we're not only talking about women, violence against women. We are going across the board. We talk about violence against LBGQ. It's in Liberia. We can't sweep it under the carpet. We can't hide it. It's in Liberia where people we have not reached to the point in our country where we talk about the gay, the lesbian. There's a lot of violence against them. So those are all the things we talk about when we talk about violence against people in Liberia. Child labor
Exactly.
is another
Yeah.
thing in Liberia.
Yeah.
So right, so all of those things fall under violence in the country. So it's not only rape, sexual abuse, but we are speaking across border.
Thank you. So
Talk about
anyone? Uh,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like to add to that
sure.
from a yeah. I violence is also a behavior. I know Nia have talked about what violence is, but violence is a behavior. It's also a belief.
Hmm.
I say it's a belief because when you talk about ritualistic killing and ritualistic violence, it is stemmed from a belief, a satanic belief that says that to be in power, to have a higher deity, you have to do human sacrifice. You have to sacrifice somebody. So this is where ritualistic killing is coming from. It's a form of violence that people believe. Those who even the perpetrators of ritualistic killings don't even believe that they're committing a crime. They don't even believe it's violence because they religiously believe it's something that they should do. But because they believe that it should be a crime, it is a crime. So it is a belief. It's also a behavior, that is involving physical force intended to hurt or kill someone. So violence, the mindset of violence is in different form. That's why you see different forms of violence. People wonder when a little girl is raped, a 3-year-old girl is raped, we wonder, say, why? Who would rape a 3-year-old girl or a baby? It's because they have that belief that they must do that. They must do that because it's a sacrifice. It's a sacrifice. So they do that in their mental state. So that's why I say violence is a belief and it's a behavior.
Thank you. So the two questions:
Yeah, can I come
what
in and
why
add?
this group was
Can
established,
I?
and what is violence? Yeah, go ahead, Florence.
Okay. Yeah, can I just come in and add to what my colleagues have said?
Yeah, sure.
Um, Dee just said, violence is a belief. Let's give, for example, rape, the act of rape. We have statutory rape. It's 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 violence in a form, and it's against the law. That is where you have the 13-year-old parents giving their girls, 13, 12-year-old, to an older person to get married. That is statutory rape. So that's a form of violence. But people, quote unquote, because of some cultural issues, might not think it's violent, but it is a form of violence also.
Let me just add this, Dennis, if I may.
Sure.
Um, we as a group, we are being very careful on not treading on cultural norms. We are very careful of that. We're just trying to point out some of the different things that may be seen as violence. For example, a young child getting married. You see that in the Middle Easterners. The Middle Easterners do that. The young children get married. Da, da, da. What we're trying to really impact is, for example, I was just in Liberia. A young child, I think she was about 7 years old, was gang raped and her body thrown in a septic tank. Just this time when I went back to train teachers. Those are the kinds of issues that we really want to bring awareness to, and to see how we can, as Massa so eloquently put it, how we can holistically come up with some ideas on how we can help to bring those things to a halt. That's pretty much what. And again, I agree with what B said. It's when she said belief, it's cultural. Some of it is cultural, but we know violence. Period is just doing something by force against another human being. That is violence. That will hurt him in some form or shape. For example, child labor. You have young children that should be in school and are not in school, in the streets selling. Well, if you think about it in the long run, it will impact that child negatively, because they're not going to school. And what happens to their lives? They have almost no success in their lives because they're not prepared. They don't have skills, etc., etc. So I just wanted to add that.
Okay, Dennis, I
Yeah.
want to add one of my colleagues, I think it was Lee, mentioning the various categories of violence. She spoke about physical violence. So, and I'm glad that Lee took time to express that this group is going to be focusing on violence across the board.
Mhm.
So just because we are all women as a women's group, it doesn't mean that this group is just limited to the issues of violence against women.
Exactly.
With physical violence, people need to understand that a physical violence is one of the most prolific and one of the most dangerous forms of violence. Like, for example, just a few weeks ago, we had the issue of violence of the the two different opposing sides. The students were demonstrating, and then you had the opposing side with the CDC and whatsoever. That physical violence was so intense because even though we were not there on the ground, we were not eyewitnesses, but we experienced what they call vicarious trauma because we were seeing this horrible video where we had a group of people grab a young man, beat him up, stomp him, butt naked him, and it was just horrible. So those kinds of physical violence are one of the categories of violence that we are also going to be advocating against because it is wrong. What it does is that it further divides us as a people, it polarizes the community, and it's just completely dehumanized of the person who is the victim of the violence. So we want people to understand, including those perpetrating the violence, that no form of violence is good. We need to address them. We need to stop as a country, and we need to do that together, collectively.
So thank you. Those are very good answers. So in your what is your understanding that is giving rise to these things? Why violence is taking place in Liberia? Have you taken some time to see the root causes I mean, you may not know everything, but at least as to why these things are happening in our country.
Let me come in. I know when we started the show, you started playing the music and you said war is violence, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, studies show that in any country, war and conflict, are causes of violence. And during the war in Liberia, 61, according to you said, 61 to 77%. That was the highest violence rate in Liberia during the war. The rate, rape rate, 61 to 77%. So war and conflict also cause violence, and also gender stereotype. Mostly they look at our young girls and say, "Oh, they dress too provocatively." That doesn't mean they should be raped. That doesn't mean they should be touched. So also poverty and hunger. We're talking about our homes. Kids are sent out there, to, you know, to fetch for themselves when they're hungry, or find food for their family. Or when women go out, they are vulnerable. If their economic state is bad, is poor, they go out to people of higher power who have money, and in return, they get vulnerable to abuse. So those are some of the causes of violence, especially against women.
Let me piggyback on what B said. As a result of this war, we're in the post-war Liberia. And sometimes people say, oh, the war's been over a long time ago.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes the consequences of war take years. If you read history from different countries that have experienced civil war, you'll understand that its impact sometimes is so long, so far reaching. And what you see, if you walk among Liberians today in Liberia, you will notice that there is a heightened aggressive behavior in our people that we didn't see before. I know, having lived in Liberia for the last 2 years and I'm constantly going back, I've experienced it. I've seen that. The calmness or somewhat calmness that we experienced pre war or we displayed, you don't see that anymore. You see instead a very aggressive group of people. And the only thing that comes to my mind, not being a psychologist, not having done any research, is that, oh my goodness, I'm noticing a huge difference in our people. So if there's anything, I would have to say that, yes, the war is in fact responsible. If people were trying so hard to take care of themselves and fight for themselves, obviously, an aggressive nature will rise because of that.
What the social workers tell us?
But that,
Um, like I'll piggyback on what my colleague said. Um, the violence, besides the war, it's a cultural thing. B mentioned that. Say for example, a husband beating his wife
My,
in
my,
Liberia.
I knew one old man used to say, I don't want any two trousers in this house. Me, I'm the only trouser.
I remember growing up, they would say if he ever went to the station, they would say that's a family affair. That's the man's wife. He has the right to do what he wants to do. So it was a cultural thing, and grew up. I felt no different about it until I came to America and realized it was actually violence. Um, People beating children beyond the limit, sometimes brutalizing them. It's violence, and all of those things coming to America, then I realized there were violence. And I always say a lot of those things that took place, had the parents been here, they would have been in jail.
Hmm.
Or had the fathers been here, they would have been in jail. So there's a lot of things, and we need, besides, we need to create a lot of awareness on the violence. Things are happening. People don't realize the violence against their wives, their family members. This is a norm. So that's where we create the awareness. And after we create awareness, we try to collaborate with other organizations to minimize it if we don't put an end to the violence against people in Liberia.
Let's talk more about this, the causes and how, according to me, sometimes we're trying to normalize these things. Like growing up to in a society, there are a lot of things that we saw as normal. I don't know if that's still if that's still the case. Like especially when it comes to the domestic violence, when it comes to even the teachers beating the students, even sometime in church, there's a Bible verse for everything. Spare the rod and
Parents
spoil the
call the
child.
child.
He
Yeah.
who does not work should not eat. So if they send you for water, you don't go there. You're not going to eat, and you consider that as violence too. And then so let's talk about some of the things that look very normal that we have actually kind of accepted in our society, but you're telling me the violence. Talk to me.
When you talk about like in the homes, when there's the balance between uh, disciplinary action and violence. But the thing here is if you go beyond that, you know, so if you discipline your child, if you give a child maybe 5 lashes in the hand, to discipline your child, that is different from actual physical violence of punching a child in the face, or so that would be considered violence. To me, that would be considered violence because some of my punishments was 10 lashes in the hand. That's it. I didn't consider that violence, but
Right.
if I was punched, I would consider that to be physical violence. So just to draw that distinction, and there are other distinctions that can be drawn, but just to draw that specific distinction.
Yeah.
Okay, Dennis, if I may chime in.
Mhm.
Uh, so we also know that uh, the kinds of violence, because we're talking about violence in the home, and maybe our people didn't know better, and B just made a fantastic point of differentiating between appropriately disciplining your children or your ward and then abusing the human rights. So we know, for example, it's been happening and it's still happening. It is one of the reasons that we put this group together. The issue of child abuse is so prolific. Like one of the stories that sticks in my head is the woman who burned the hand of her 8 years old nephew because he stole meat from the pot. Apparently, the child was hungry. Apparently, the child was just adventurous. So she burned his hand, put his hand in the fire, and actually burned the hand. And we saw all of that on Facebook through Facebook, of videos and all of that. And there's so many different, like somebody beat the child to death in the same Liberia. So those are all some of the examples of violence that concerns us as women, as human beings who also uh, uh, share common humanity with every other human being on this earth. But I just wanted to not to take you back, but just as we were talking about, as my colleagues were talking about some of the reasons why we think violence is happening and violence continues. I was just thinking about one or two things I want to say quickly. This issue of impunity, Dennis,
Yeah.
impunity. So it may be addressed at different levels, but impunity generally, when somebody does something wrong or when something wrong happens, and when it has not been addressed carefully, uh, punishment is not necessarily punishment, but it has to be addressed. So you may call the person and talk to the person. If it's a child or so, you may let them know that it's not a right thing. Try to educate them. If it's an adult, you might find an amicable, respectful approach to that adult. But this issue of impunity in our society. So my colleagues made a very good point of, telling us what the war has done. So the violence that we're experiencing is actually all because of the war and some of the things that happened in the war. But I think it is continuing and is escalating because nothing is happening. People who hurt people in open within purview of the entire public, nothing is happening to them. In fact, there have been some cases where there will be perpetrator before they commit a crime. They will tell the person, "You play with me, I will beat you here mercilessly, and nothing will come out of it." It's because impunity to see that nothing is happening. So people massacre whole or village. People murder people, family. People rape people, daughters, and people rape people's sons, sodomize young boys, and nothing is happening. So impunity is one reason why we see the escalation of violence in our society. Another reason too is the lack, I think, is the lack of enforcement of laws against crimes. We are, unfortunately, we seem to be a group of people who we take everything for granted. Liberians, like, oh, let's just let it be. Oh, it's a small country, all of us are interrelated. Oh, you know what, just let it be. So the lack of enforcement of laws against crimes is also aiding and abetting the commission of crimes. And then also during the war, we saw the massive breakdown of our systems, including our criminal justice system.
Mm-hmm.
And the country is still struggling to rebuild those institutions.
Yeah.
And in the process of struggling to rebuild those institutions, we as a people, our hands are filled with a lot of things going on. It's like a woman in a shoe got all these children, and she's struggling to make sure that they get everything they need to survive. So Liberia is in a dire stress situation when it comes to what we have inherited from those warring years, and then of course the lack of, maybe it's a lack of resources, or maybe
Yeah.
it's the lack of distribution or proper distribution of the resources. Like, for example, the entire country of 4 million people have only one DNA machine, only one DNA machine. And those of us who are fortunate to be enlightened, whether we live in this country or not, we know how very crucial and important a DNA machine is in terms of forensic, in terms of gathering the evidence, and in terms of actually or grabbing people who are committing crimes. So we have just one DNA machine in the entire country. And then the police director himself has said consistently over and over that they don't have the resources. They
Exactly.
don't,
That's
they
another
actually,
problem.
yeah, they don't
Yeah.
have the resources, they don't have the trained, personnel. So those are all the factors that are culminating into this
Thank you.
pandemic that we have on our hands that is called violence. I just wanted to make that those
Yeah,
points.
Thank you.
okay. Can I just come here a little bit, please?
Yeah, sure.
Then, okay. Um, it says that about 50% of violence, rape, sodomization happens in the in the hinterland. In the different counties, not in Monrovia. But these people are not reporting these cases. So if you speak to a parent whose child have been raped, why are you not reporting it to the authorities? The answer would be the court, they will not do anything. The person will go and bribe the court and nothing will happen. And this disgrace, this shame will follow my child. So the mistrust in the court system also is, it's a deterrent for some of these people to come and report some of these cases.
Yeah.
Because the last time we were talking to someone for Drazon in Sino County, and the woman said, the woman daughter was raped, 11 years old. And then she said, oh, it's okay. We've discussed it with the family, and they are taking care of the girl. And we were like, do you know the long-term effect of what has happened to your daughter? But the fact that they compromise the case, even if you talk to someone from Justice Ministry with gender, the problem they are having is family are compromising. So it makes it difficult sometimes for the court system to prosecute, even though there are mistrust. But our family in the interior, for some reason, it's that is where part of our work, our attention.
Yeah.
Because in Monrovia, it's easier for someone to go and report to Ministry of Justice or call the police. But if you're somewhere in Grand Cayman County where your parents think that it's okay as long as the man is giving us money, it makes it difficult.
Yeah. Thank you. And Mansa mentioned about escalation, that violence has escalated. I also read your brochure, and you stated that within the last 3 years, do you have some numbers to show me that violence has gone up? Someone watching you say, "Well, this has always been the case." Do you have any information as to how violence or violent behavior has spiked in the country?
Okay, sure, Dennis. Let me start. So I will start with some of the categories of violence, and then my colleagues can come in later. So, for example, sexual and gender-based violence. So, uh, as of 2,240 cases of sexual and gender-based violence that were reported nationwide in 2020. Now, 2020 is just 2 years ago. It's just 2 years ago. So that's current stats. In 2020 alone, rape accounted for 80%. And the source is the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection of Liberia. Another stat: 60% of women ages 15 to 49 have experienced physical violence. Source: since 2019 and 2020, and this stat were put together by the Ministry of Violence and Legis, and it was done for the Liberia Demographic and Health Survey. 16% in 2020 alone, 16% of reported sexual and gender-based violence were for domestic violence, while more rape victims have been reported in the 13 to 17 age group. So these are all current statistics just within the last 2 years alone. That's why we say it's escalating. So interestingly and sadly as well, the courts, that is the rape court, we have a rape court. So the courts, just within the last 2 years, they dropped 51% of reported domestic violence cases due to the lack of evidence. This is what I was talking about, the lack of evidence, the lack of maybe proper training to know how to gather the evidence, and the lack of equipment and also, resources. Like we have only one DNA machine in the entire country. Okay, so according to the Women and Children Protection section of the Liberia National Police, the ability to collect and preserve evidence, for example, of sexual and gender-based violence, have also been lacking in the past 2 years. So, I will leave my colleagues to add, if anybody wants to add anything. Like, for example, uh, this mysterious death and ritualistic killings that, we were talking about just from 2020 to 2022 alone, more than 30%. More than 30%. We actually, when we did the research, it actually showed 33, but we just want to be on the safe side. So more than 30% have died, victims of acts of violence in various parts of the country. And I am sure, like Florence made a very good point when she said, um, most of these stats, even though they say it's coming from the county, but we know that most of these things are not being reported from the Leeward County. You see, our focus is also going to be on the 14 counties and not just Monserrado County, because our people out there in the Leeward counties are completely at the mercy of unscrupulous people who want to be criminals, who want to be committing these kinds of human rights crimes, and then also the lack of resources that have been apportioned to these communities to help them deal with the issue of crime. Like, for example, Grand Crew County, I don't know how many police officers they have now, but when I was on the TRC doing TRC work and we went up there, they had only 2 police officers in the entire Grand Crew County, only 2. So how are they supposed to fight all the crimes that were taking place in that county? This is why the women were being raped. The women came and testified, of how they were being massively raped. Okay, so from 2020 to 2022 alone, more than 30 persons have died, victims of acts of violence in various parts of the country. In 2020, 6 government auditors, we know 6 government auditors mysteriously died. Up until now, there's been no official resolution of the cases. The 3 young boys, known as the Simose boys, is another, circumstances, and then that immigration police officer and all these other people who've been dying. So you can see how the violence has just so escalated. You would think that after the war, the United Nations was there for a long time. Every renowned international human rights group in the world literally had an office in Liberia, and they were trying to help us in the restructuring of every facet of our society, but especially the focus was on human rights, because the war saw the massive human rights of the Liberian people. And even with all of that, here we are in this new dispensation, and the violence is escalating. Last week, they just found a pregnant woman on the old road dead, murdered as a result of homicide. 2 weeks ago, Eileen, I think, mentioned it. A 7-year-old,
Okay.
or a 7-year-old was raped, neck was broken, and she was thrown in an open septic tank. So people are just doing these things, and honestly, it's because it's epidemic. Really, really, we have to come together as a country. We don't care, what side you think you're on. This thing here, we got to take it seriously. We got to come together as a country to deal with this monster.
And it's good. It's good to note that it's good if I can come in. It's good to note that study from post-war or during the wars show how the percentage was more, was 61 to 77%. But it's good to note that it did not decrease. It's increasing more and more. So that is the troubling factor of that.
Exactly.
It's post-war, but still,
but it's increasing.
It's increasing.
Yeah.
So that's troubling. So it's good to note that.
Thank you. And let's be honest. Politics in our country, things are very polarizing. So no matter how good your intentions are, people look at it from a political landscape. Say, oh, okay, why are they doing this? As soon as you say something, people put you as either pro-government or anti-government. How are you trying to thread this path so that because violence is nobody is in favor of violence.
Exactly.
How are you going to do it so that you don't look like you are either pro or anti or this place or that place? How are you going to appeal to all sides of the political divide so that they can join you in this effort?
Well, may I please? The first step is we're going to be all about solutions as opposed to criticisms. Unlike other groups, we're not here bashing we're not here bashing Alex Cummings, we're not here bashing Joe Barker. We're not interested in that. And I know I speak for the rest of us, because when we got together as a group, the first thing we made very clear was that we were not going to delve into the political side of anything. We are just trying to help our country to come up with solutions to cut down on what's going on. So the first step is we're not going to bash anybody and any political leader, anyone. We're just going to be solution oriented. So if somebody else can pick up from there.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Elaine, you're right. And what I wanted to add is that all of the recommendations from these studies that were done state or suggest that you cannot decrease violence or you cannot eliminate it if you don't work with all stakeholders, everybody.
Exactly.
It suggests that you must work with the government, you must work with the Justice Department, the police, the lawmakers, teachers, educators. You've got to work with everybody,
Everyone.
To be able to change this thing. So if you put a political front to this, then you're defeating the purpose already.
Precisely.
So again, it goes to the soul of our country. When you talk about a 3-year-old being raped, okay, where is the empathy? Where's your moral compass? Where is it? You have to have that in the first place. So politics has nothing to do with that. Politics has nothing that's happening in your soul. All of us don't come out and scream and yell, but we feel it when we see these other advocates bring awareness. They show pictures. I see them drained. I watched an advocate who was online and she broke down. She broke down because a family came on. This guy came on and he said, if I do not get justice, I'm going to commit suicide. And she couldn't even speak the word and she was crying. I also watched another one who had COVID and she came out and she had to give awareness and show us that another case or another victim, had just been raped. And she was laying in her bed, sitting up in her bed, couldn't even breathe, to bring awareness. So it's about your soul. It's about the empathy that you have. It's about the soul of the country. So politics is away from that. So those of us who have empathy, those of us who understand the value of human beings, okay, we cannot inject politics into this. It has to be hands-on. It has to be everybody.
Thank you. So if I may ask,
Yeah.
how do you intend
Yeah,
to
Dennis.
end violence in Liberia? How do you intend to do this?
if I may, if I may come in. So, how do we intend? We've been literally saying that, all night, maybe in a moderate way. We intend to have, if we were in politics and if this was a political show, we would say we intend to have a bipartisan approach.
Exactly.
How we do it?
Right.
Bipartisan politics
We'll
means
reach across the aisle, right?
everybody coming together. We share across the aisle, mean
Yeah.
the opposition, mean the CDC working with the ANC, the ANC working with the Liberty Party, with the Unity Party to resolve this. Because that's what we need to do as a country. But because we're non-political, so we're going to be working across the aisle with everybody. With everybody. Now let's just say that, like B said, and I'm so glad, B, that you brought up that point. Thank you so much. We must give credit to other advocates who have been doing this. Advocacy has different levels and different style.
Yeah.
So there are some advocates, they are fiery. Like, for example, the Bible, you had the different levels of prophets. You had Joshua, who was a fiery prophet, he was bringing down the wall of Jericho. You had, John the Baptist, who was the wild man eating locusts. But then you had other martyr prophets like Samuel and other people. So you have some advocates who, like B said, they've been there from day one in the vanguard. They've been blowing that blowhorn with the arm. Every act of violence, they've been telling us every single day. They have not stopped. They continue. They're holding the government accountable. They're holding their feet to the fire and whatsoever. It's all very good. We should hold the government accountable because they are in charge of the country, they are in charge of the resources, and they are the first people that you look to for solution. They are our mother and father. Okay? But the question we want to ask ourselves is, so after we've raised the alarm, after we continue every day to scream and shout in a good way, of course, and to continue to advocate fiery whatsoever, at the end of the day, where are we with this problem? Is it being resolved? Is violence against Liberians being reduced?
Okay.
If not, then we need to ask ourselves, what more we need to do that we're not doing now as advocates? Okay, so we're calling the government out. We should, because they are responsible for the country. Okay, but then what next? What do we need to do next to make sure that we resolve this? So we kind of figure, well, you know what? We can continue to hold those who are responsible for running our country responsible. But then in the meantime, we want to hold them responsible in a way that they don't think that we are against them, that we hate them, whatsoever. We want them to understand, listen, this is not personal. This is not politics. We want to be working with you. Come together. We are all Liberians. This is our country. How do we come together and resolve this thing? So we're going to be working with everybody across the board. Everybody across the board. We're going to be lobbying the Congress. We're even going to be in the future. We're going to, in the very near future, we're going to be helping we're going to find congressional allies to help them, okay, get lawyers and stuff to maybe craft bills to see how they can introduce bills to to address this. Maybe lobby, go to the go to the Minister of Justice, go to the Minister of Gender, if possible, even meet with the president and someone here, call group, hey, Mr. President, this is where we are now. Okay, how do we as a people come together to address this? Because we need to address this. I mean, we cry every morning. I mean, you wake up, you see it's horrible, it's painful, and then the thing is, it's coming to people's doorsteps.
Right.
Before, if people thought it was just for the ordinary people who are unprotected, it's for everybody. Nobody is protected or exempt from this violence. It's visiting us. It's coming to our doorsteps. We got to do something about it as a people.
Thank you. I have one more question, but Miss Allison, you wanted to add something?
Right. I was just to add to what my son said. While we advocate to stop the violence, there are also perpetrators, and we work with law enforcement too to have those perpetrators brought to justice. Because while advocating, we still have to get the perpetrators to make sure that also fall within the purview of minimizing the violence. Because we're advocating, we cannot allow them to go free after they have committed crimes against others. So just want to add that.
Thank you. So my question to all of you is, there are other people already doing this. They have been doing it. Someone will ask, why not join one of these groups? Why are you separate? What is different about what you're going to do, looking at what is already being done?
Let me
go ahead,
start with that. Okay. They said there's a saying that says, it takes a village to raise a child. Uh, there are other groups that have been working on various aspects of violence. What we are going to do is take the holistic approach, address all forms of violence, sodomization, rape, uh, 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 and
LGBTQ,
what have you.
child labor,
Yes,
Human
child
trafficking,
labor,
all
everything.
of
all of that.
Yes, but we are not just coming to reinvent the wheel because we know that others have been working. Right now, as we speak, we are partnering with organizations in Liberia so we can work together in addressing these issues. We have organizations that deal with child labor. We are partnering with that. We have organizations that deal with rape. So we are not just bringing our ideas. We are using what is already there, what these organizations have been working with, and then we are collaborating with them to reach a larger group. So we are not just coming, to bring our ideas. We have groups that have been working, and we are going to partner with this group to carry on our agenda.
Thank
May
you.
I chime in quickly?
Sure.
Again, let me just say thank you to B for the comment when she said, climbing on the shoulders of others, to reap from what they have started. But again, one more thing, Dennis, we have been very intentional, very deliberate in our approach to this. Believe me, when Masa and my other colleagues, I think someone said that we have been behind the scene for months, sitting, discussing this very intentionally. We don't want to leave any room for errors because, like you rightfully said, some political group or somebody might accuse us of doing this. We just want to make sure that what we're doing may not necessarily be so very different from someone else, but maybe slightly different, so that we don't get any. And we probably will get some lashbacks. We expect that, but again, our approach, because it encompasses all groups, all political groups, all ethnicities, all tribal groups, different. We just want to do it in such a way that we are very intentional, so that when we do finally get to move out there, we get some good results. Again, we are more goal oriented as opposed to just in the moment, cursing out people and protesting and people, that no, we want to do it very, very strategically so that we get some good results.
Also, if I can add, I think the question, if I think the question should be, why not more groups? Why not more groups? Because there are different focuses when it comes to advocacy. Some advocacies are more focused on identifying cases and bringing awareness, and some focus on education and training, vulnerable communities and public. Others focus on health of the victims, the trauma, their psychological and economic effects that comes with that. Others focus on all of those things, and we are solution driven. So we can bring all of those together and say, what is the solution here? you know if we work with all of the advocacy groups, with the different focuses of advocacy, we can bring all of that together and find a solution, since we are solution driven. So I think the question should be, why not more?
Right.
Because study also shows that people who are on a day-to-day basis advocating against violence also have mental breakdowns and trauma on their own because of that. The things that they're exposed to every day, those who see the actual violence, you know. So if that happens, then there still has to be more group to come in. When somebody is getting tired and drained, there has to be more people coming in to help that person out, that group, that individual out, so that this thing can continue, because it's a big problem.
It is.
So I
Yeah.
would ask the question, why not more groups instead of why are you coming in? I think we need
Wow.
more groups,
More awareness.
more awareness.
Hmm.
Yes.
Good. And to your point, see, Priscilla is saying if that was the case, he's talking to me now. He said then we wouldn't have multiple churches. We all go to my Pentecostal church, right?
Exactly.
That's
Exactly.
right. That is
Exactly.
right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I know, or let's say today you hit Liberia. Practically, how you going to do this? I mean, how you going to reach to my hometown in Sino County? How you going to walk me through the steps, and then how you going to get the money to do it? So let me hear what you got to say.
But Sano Kante,
It is,
anybody can go to Sano Kante.
yeah.
You got to walk up because my
Dennis,
village no car can reach there.
So Florence,
what's your
Florence has
village?
has
What's your
helped us
village?
No car road
What's
there.
your
So
No
village? I
car,
can
but you
reach
The
can
it.
from
village
your
that
village.
Kawekin, in that Kawekin.
Okay.
Kakawiken? You come from Kawiken, cousin
no,
Dennis?
no, I come from Dudweken.
Oh, so okay.
Oh,
Is
okay.
it
But now,
Wasmo?
No, that's
Okay.
District 2, Sino County.
Okay. Well,
But yeah, I just want to see a way that the map you have that you're going to get to Liberia today and what you're going to be doing. I want to see that picture
okay.
of how
Thank you
this
so
thing will look
much.
like.
Thank you so much for asking that question. We are not waiting until we get to Liberia to start working with the counties. We have already started with groups that are working in these counties. We are doing
uh-huh.
it for a group right now that work in Zwedru and Sino. So we will continue to work with these groups. Then when we hit the ground, then we can do hands-on and see actually how some of the solutions that we have put in place that probably these other groups have not been able to accomplish, we'll be able to address some of those solutions. But we are not waiting until we get on the ground. We have already started in these different counties. Like, for example, in Magibi, uh, about 3 days ago or so, we heard a case from Wayala Magibi where there were two boys were killed
Hmm.
and the parts taken out. So one of the members of our group immediately went there to 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 start the ball rolling, to inquire and see what's happening. And she was able to gather information that we will be able to discuss. So we can just say we'll go there and start working. We have already started working in these counties.
You got money? How's this going to be funded?
You
Uh,
know, you're looking at a group of beautiful women. You see, you get money, we can farm money.
Oh, speak for yourself, cousin B.
We
Speak
can
for
farm
yourself.
money, but
No, just
but anyway, we started. Of course, when you start something, you have to self-fund it.
exactly.
So we started, and right now we are self-funded. We are registered in Pennsylvania, and we will, as going forward, we will have some programs to raise more funds, additional funds, and we're going to be soliciting donations. So those are things that are in the pipes to do. So of course, we will need the resources. So we'll look for the resources, and we know that by God's grace, because this thing is a bigger cause. There are people out there who have the heart to help and to get this done. So I think we will accomplish something by doing that.
And
Thank you.
to add to this, Dennis, we have a great platform. We are also going to explore grant writing to get funds, because that's a dying need. We know the issue is deeper than what it is, and we'll continue to engage stockholders all over, and through that means we'll get some of the necessary funds that we need.
Thank you. And Mohammed Salia Dukla is asking, will you also work with men? Mohammed saying that you're all women, and this is women against women to end violence.
Now, we initially, when we opened up, we said we're beyond borders, not because we are women, but we talk about violence across the board. So we are working with men. There are issues with men. Men are being raped, not only
yeah,
women. Men
exactly.
are being violated.
Sodomization.
yeah,
Minimizing our
solemnization.
voice.
So we are working
Yeah.
with every group. That's the opening when we said not only women and children, but men. We are working with everybody.
Right.
And I
And
think for Dennis,
mentioned someone mentioned about the children. Most of the time when you see, I've had reports that are witchcraft, where most of the people being accused they are either old or little children,
right.
boys and girls alike. And I got a video where this person they said the little girl says something was planted in the room, so they have to dig that place and they took something from there that she says she planted. So there's a lot of things, So most of the people that they call witches now, someone made a comment here that the children are being accused of being witch, and those people are not little girls alone, little boys as well. I know you have a symposium that is coming up. Let's talk about that quickly
Yeah, sure,
before
sure.
we take our break and bring in some comments and calls. You have a
You know, before
symposium coming up, I
before
think
you
it's
say,
September 17.
Mhm.
Why are you having symposium? What do you hope to accomplish from this symposium?
Well, again, we are having it because it's more in terms, along with bringing awareness to who we are, what we're doing, the situation that is in Liberia. So, for example, we'll be having three speakers. The keynote speaker will be the Lieutenant Governor from Delaware, Lieutenant Bethany Hill Long. We'll have former ambassador to the United States, Rachel Rayon Deeks, and our own Lawrence Kennedy. Then, besides those fantastic speakers, and of course, they will be talking about the various types of violence that we are experiencing in Liberia, and bring some insight to what's going on and some possible solutions altogether, so that we all hopefully by the end of the symposium will have some solid solutions, so that we can move forward on those solutions. Well, also, while I was in Liberia, I was able to bring back recordings from live victims who have suffered abuses at the hands of perpetrators who are still walking around with impunity.
Hmm.
So again, we are still, while we are not yet out there, we're still working in, like, we have already started working in Liberia, and we're very excited about it. So again, the symposium will be from on September 17th from 12 to 5 p.m. And I don't know if Dennis, is it possible to put the address, to pin it on the screen or somewhere for our viewers to see?
Yeah, you can send that to me.
Okay, can you send it, please, someone, so that Dennis can pin it right now for us? So
Can you send it, please?
it's going to be from 12 to 5. We'll have, like I said, victims speaking. We'll have speakers who will give, who will speak on the different topics, and we ourselves, we are going to speak on several major abuses that are happening right now in our beloved country. So we have poetry being read. It's just going to be an informational meeting, that symposium. It will be filled with a lot of information, and we hope to bring more awareness to this problem in Liberia. So we're inviting everyone who can make it. We're about to pin the address for the symposium, and we really are looking forward to having you join us to bring this huge, as Massa put it, this huge boogeyman out into the public, so that we can address it as best as we all can together. So that's what the symposium is going to be about.
So who's invited? Who should be there?
Everyone is invited. Everyone.
everyone, we will be inviting some of our
A
advocates,
friend,
introduce
advocates, everyone, law enforcement
yeah.
agencies, civil society, just national stake, stake nation and stakeholders, just everybody who we can get.
And what is your success criteria for this symposium? At the end of the day, if the symposium is all said and done,
Mhm.
how will you tell us that you are successful or not?
With some solutions that we would generate from us getting together and having discussion, a direct path, as far as, okay, so these are some definite things we got from the symposium that we can move forward on to implement.
So Dennis Jai is attending. At the end of that symposium, what's going to happen to me? What am I supposed to benefit from it, or what am I going to be learning, or what is going to be asked of me as the necessary next step as someone who attended the symposium?
Well, I mean, it depends on what role. The one thing, if Dennis is a Liberian, Dennis knows that we're coming forward with solutions so that he can return to a Liberia where he won't feel threatened every time he turns around, looks
And
around.
Dennis, when you hear what the victims have to say, when you hear all the different speakers, what we have to say about all the different violence in Liberia, when you hear all of that and the impact, the long-term and short-term impact, as a man of good heart, you will be touched. You will even leave some money there for us.
And not, B, not only that too. Let me add to that too. Sometimes people hear about these things, but they cannot really empathize with these stories until
Right.
you hear those stories from the horse's mouth.
Yes.
So when you hear these victims explaining what they went through, I can guarantee you will leave from there not only an informed Dennis, but it changed Dennis in regards to some roles you could possibly play in helping to bring this crisis to an end.
Exactly.
Yes,
That's the power of awareness.
absolutely, absolutely.
There you have it. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to read comments and open the phone lines for those who want to join us and ask questions, also give their input. We'll be right back.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jai.
Welcome back to Focus on Liberia. We are discussing with a group launching their organization, the Liberian Women Advocacy to End Violence in Liberia. And at this time, let's read a few comments, and our phone lines are open. If you want to take part in the discussion, please call the number that is scrolling down on your screen there. Please call that number, and the number is 605-313-6004. The code is 791403#. Few comments here that we want to read quickly. There are people watching. They say, Salia Douglas say your work will be focused on Liberia or in Liberia. Are you having speakers from Liberia?
Oh yes, I mean we have Lawrence Kennedy from Liberia and former ambassador to the U.S. Honorable Deeks, Rachel Mayon Deeks. Yes.
Thank you. Our women play a great part in bringing peace to Liberia, and I know our ladies can play a gigantic part in stopping the violence in the country. Thanks, lady. But that's from Evan Morris. Fode Kabase, good evening. Evan Morris is making a donation to us. Oh no, is it to the ladies or me? Okay, so there's a $10 in our on our YouTube channel. beside Bujumbura Cam. Okay, this Victor is following from Bikena. Welcome, Victor, joining us from Bezon. Advocacy, religious violence is spared abroad and spoil the child. Many parents use this verse to abuse their children. Yeah, I saw a video, and I was like, wow, I couldn't play that. Things are very, if you discipline a child out of anger, that's violence. If you discipline to correct and teach, that's different. And of course, correction should not be something trauma related. Gabby Tugger say, if I may inquire, what's about mental abuse of kids? I know the physical abuses resulting in violence can be visible, but mental abuse can be far more reaching and damaging as well. Will this group address that aspect as well?
Okay, let me just say that.
Okay.
Sorry, Florence. That is more. You see that in the schools. One of the things I make a lot of noise about when I go to train is that we have to always look at the discipline management program they have. And I always push discipline with respect or discipline with dignity. So that's something that this group has to also look at, because when you abuse mentally, self-esteem, etc., things happen, children become angry, and from anger there's aggression, and then there's violence. So yes, that is definitely something we'll be looking at as well. We have to look at.
Yes, and also the mental abuse. I think there's a story from a town in Bassa where the grandmother starved this child, 12 years old child, for 2 days without giving her food. The grandma went to church. When she came back, the little child hanged herself.
Oh,
so it's that's a form of mental abuse that went to the extreme.
wow.
Because she hanged herself. It was in the newspaper a couple of days ago, somewhere in Grand Bassa. So all those things have to, we have to address all of those things, and we will be addressing it.
And that's how we provide a lot of awareness, because it starts on the home. You find people telling parents, for a good child, you will not amount to nothing. And all of those are emotional abuse the child carry around them. The scar is there. So when they get into the school system, they know already at home they're not going to amount to nothing. So why make effort? There's no effort made. So that's a problem. So when we're creating this awareness, it starts from the home within ourselves. And then we take it outdoor to the school system. So it's something that we'll work on. And that's the good thing. In our group, we have social workers, we have educators, we have advocates, it's a combination of most of the professions. So we are going to work with every group. Like I said, we have borders. We'll be a group with all borders.
Somewhere you go to Liberia, somebody tell you that awareness will eat. What are you gonna do?
Well, you would tell them that awareness will keep you alive, because to be able to eat, you got to be alive.
Good answer. Yeah. Jimmy Eastman said there was a women's demonstration against rape and abuse a couple of years ago. How does this group plan to impact Liberia with these stories and information?
Dennis, am I unmuted?
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
you always believe you are muted, Masa. You
part of the psychological abuse. You're part of the mental abuse from your different talk shows. Then it can cost me whole day when I come home. Part of the abuse. So, but anyway, Jimmy, how are you? A very good question. Thank you very much. So, one of the reasons we have a community liaison program is to make sure that we will be able to reach people directly, to also get the stories, and so that we can be able to plan as we plan our program. By the way, as we speak, we have a work plan that we've already produced amongst us for the next 12 months. And of course, like Nee said, we have social workers in our group, and we have mental health specialists as well. So we we will be listening to people, the different experiences, and we will be designing specific programs as we go along to address some of those experiences. And we will have some traditional programs, but then we'll also have some non-traditional programs. Like, for example, we're having the symposium now. In the very near future, we, might be having a training program for example, parents on how to, handle your kids in the home, how to spot abuse, so that parents can understand to draw the line between the discipline and abuse. So we're going to be having all these different programs. We know people have been doing some of them, but the difference with us is that we will have some of those programs, but then we will have some specific uh, 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 goal-oriented and solution-focused programs. So we do intend to um, we are already engaging people in Liberia. Florence is our person, and she's going to be going to Liberia very soon. She's going to pick up with what we've already started doing, connections we've started making with some other groups, like that group from Buchanan, but that's from Magibi, right? Is it
Yeah,
Magibi
yeah.
or yeah, that group from Magibi, yes. So that group, they have a very interesting story. So we're going to be meeting with different segment of the society, hearing their stories, hearing the issues in the community, and then working out with them, a simplified but practical work plans that will help address their specific issues. Because even though we're discussing violence, but different people in different communities are experiencing, maybe some of them are experiencing all the different categories of violence, but maybe some of them are experiencing only specific categories of violence. So as we tend to work with the different groups and the different communities, we will organize ourselves to speak to those needs.
Thank you. Let me bring in our first caller here as Evis Morris. Evis, you are live.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Judge. Thank you
Thank
to
you.
the ladies on the panel tonight. I just want to state, like I stated earlier in my comment, during our war in Liberia, when our mothers, our grandmothers, our wives, our aunties, they're crying for peace, they're crying for any cause, we, the men, we tend to listen to them. And that's why I really have a passion for this project. A lot of people come around with different causes, but this one, deep down in my heart, I feel like they can actually really have a tremendous impact on the violence in the country. But then to Ms. Washington directly, I just want to ask, what does she think about the TRC? What does she think that if the TRC would have been implemented, especially for some of the men who are the perpetrator of some of these violence, this probably would have helped them a lot to maybe heal, or even just mental health programs to really readjust and introduce the young men who took part in combat during the war, that was left traumatized, with some of them with PTSD. Don't you think that the implementation of the TRC would have really helped us as a nation, and maybe even heal some of us, and then maybe establish some programs to help rehabilitate some of these young men and women who have been traumatized during the war? But again, I do believe that this whole initiative that they're taking on is probably going to yield some fruits, but it's just going to be a very tall order to end, violence across the board.
Yeah, thank you.
But thanks again for the initiative. I believe in this, and hopefully we can have a subsequent show where we can be able to donate, because I want to donate to this cause. Thank you again, Mr. Joe, taking my call.
Thank you. You heard Evis, he wants to donate, so you should have a subsequent show where donation will be taken.
Thank you, Elvis.
Thank you.
Thanks, Elvis. Thank you very much.
All right. So keep the calls coming. We have some are calling me directly. So what are your actual next plans? 6 months down the road.
Well, let's just say, if I may come in,
Yeah.
let's just say we wouldn't want to show all of our eggs in a basket. You know what I mean? we 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 like I said, we have a work plan, and we're still planning towards synchronizing our plan and bringing it into fruition. So, but as we reach specific work plans or items, the public will definitely hear from us. Whatever we do next, they will hear from us time enough to be able to be a part of it.
Okay.
Uh, yeah.
So for anyone watching us now and those who will watch later, we are on all social media platforms. What do you want for your listeners to do?
Well, I think the first and foremost thing we would like for people to do is like have an open mind towards our group. This is why we appreciate callers like Mr. Morris and Jimmy and the rest of them and Gabe Tucker. We want Liberians to have an open mind. So just because advocacy has been happening and you don't think it's been going the way you think it should go doesn't mean that it hasn't been effective for some people. Doesn't mean it is still not a good thing. Like my colleague B said, the more the merrier. The more of us that become alerted to this issue of the violence, and the more of us want to do something about it, the better for everybody. So I want for our people to have an open mind. And people have the freedom of speech and the freedom of expression. They can think the way they want, but at the bottom line is, at the end of the day, we want to ask ourselves, will this be good for Liberia? And if the answer is yes, then we want you to join us. Now, the women you see on this forum here are members of the steering committee. We intend for this organization to be open to all Liberians, men and women alike. This is the steering committee. The steering committee is that committee that's going to be designing programs and doing other things. But as we are engaging the public. We'll be encouraging the public to please join us. For example, the symposium is coming up on September 17th. That's a Saturday, September 17th in Delaware. The information is out there. Please join us. That's another way of supporting this cause that is so germane and important to all of us.
Mohammed Salia Dukle says, we live in different parts of the world. Are the sisters open to learning from other people's experience? I mean, other professionals? Yes, no?
Yes, certainly.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Michael Lewis said, thank Mr. Dennis, and also thanks to everyone for such a good advocate against violence. I'm interested and wholeheartedly willing to work alone from my end in Mount Gibby County.
Oh, thank you, Michael.
Thank you,
That's
Michael.
great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Please share your Cash App, GoFundMe, so we can donate to your cause. Great job.
Thank you, Sekou. You got my brother name, Sekou.
All right. So again, anything more you want? We are about to draw down the curtains. Anything else we didn't talk about? I didn't mention that you want to add to this?
Dennis, can you please put the symposium information there again, please?
Yeah.
It's
It's pinned.
It's been. Well, I would just like to encourage all those living in the Delaware, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Baltimore area to attend the symposium on the 17th. If you have time, just make time to attend a symposium. It would be something to attend. And especially, I mean, it's open not only to Liberians and everyone else. So we are appealing to those that live within the area. Even if you have to drive 2 or 3 hours, still come to the symposium. It will be worthwhile.
And for those who live out of the country and other places, like we had this fellow from Magibi, we are also working to have a live stream of our symposium on the 17th. So all the information will be posted on different social medias. We'll ask Focus on Liberia to post the information in additional social media to have more people watch the symposium live.
Yeah, and also to add, some of the groups that we are working with in Liberia will also be part of the symposium. They'll be watching virtually. So it's by the grace of God, we think it will be well attended.
If someone want to get in touch, watch the program tonight and want to contact any one of you or get in contact, which number how do they get in contact with you?
267 7800751. Let me type it here.
Say that again. What's the number again,
Two
Martha?
six seven 7800751. I just send it in the chart.
Okay.
Is that also WhatsApp for people who live out of the country?
Yes.
All right. So the number to call is 267-780-0751. And also, when you call that number, you'll be able to give them, because someone else was asking for Cash App and other information. Well, ladies, the Liberian women advocacy to end violence in Liberia. I want to go around the room so I can get your final comment and get your final word to the people watching us. Let's start with Beatrice. B.
Yes. Well, thanks again, Dennis, to you and your Focus on Liberia team for hosting us. I think this was a great discussion, and I'm sure we'll have more discussion to follow because this is a big age problem that has been going on, and it needs more awareness. It needs more people talking about it, and it has to be solution driven so that we get somewhere. I know one of the questions where was that we haven't been anywhere. It's been going on. What can we do now? But we're not going to stop until something is done. I think I'll be excited if violence is decreased in Liberia, if our communities are secure, if our little girls can run around freely and not being afraid that somebody's going to touch them. If people are secure, if you have a community or country where people feel secure, you can build economic growth quickly in that sense. So that will be my prayer, that Liberia is secure, that our people are secure. So we will not stop until we work towards that. So I just want to thank you again for having us. I want to thank my colleagues, beautiful ladies that are on here tonight, and those who are not on here. We have other women who are not on here who work behind the scene and been doing a lot of hard work. I also want to thank them tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Miss Allison.
Thank you, Mr. John. I want to thank you for creating this platform for us. As you know, this is a serious issue in our country, and we hope to continue to engage people in Liberia and different parts of the world to minimize the violence against women. We just want to encourage everybody to join us in this fight as we advocate against violence with everybody. We are going across borders, not only for women, but for men as well. So I want to thank you for giving us the platform tonight.
Thank you. Miss Washington.
Again, we can't say thank you enough to you, Dennis, and also to all of the wonderful folks at FOL Focus on Liberia. Thank you so much. But I would like to say thank you to all of the ladies here for taking the time of to do this for Liberia. It's actually a pleasure working with you anytime, any day. But I want to give shout out to the rest of our steering committee members who are not here today. I want to say a hello to Ente Miata Famule. She's our advisor. Ente Miata, your girls are here. We hope we did you proud. I also like to say, I'll give a shout out to Bendu Hunter. She's also our, she's on the steering committee. Mrs. Lindura Howard Dorara. Lindura is on the steering committee. She's one of those who's worked very hard. Sister Veronica Louise Barr. Sis V, thank you so much for everything. Let's continue to work hard for the people of Liberia, and of course, our finance person, Miss Burma Finley. Burma, we want to say thank you so much. Thank you to everybody.
Precious.
Let's continue.
Precious.
Yeah, Precious. And then, of course, our sweetheart, Precious Caroline Smith. She's the baby amongst us. Precious is not very well. We continue to pray for her. But Precious Caroline Smith, my mush mush, thank you so much. Shout out to you. We wish you well. And I'm appealing to the people of Liberia to please reach reach out to us. We will reach out to you. Let's work together to address this situation that is plaguing our country. We will work with everybody who wants to do something about this. We are open and we will be objective across the board. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Tomorrow at 7 o'clock, welcome to Tough Talking Thursday, where we discuss all the top political and other issues in our country. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about the new elections law, the new CPP and its amended framework document, and also there has been an exchange between President Weah and opposition leader Alexander B. Cummings. My guests, Akina Wesley, Adman Salif, Mohammed Sharif, Wilmot Cooney, and Madam Edith Gonglo Ware. You don't want to miss that. Also on Saturday, that's at 1 p.m. Eastern, I'm going to be having a discussion with the Liberian National Academic Excellence Award team. Mr. Isaac Monpaul, the Director of Admin and Innovation, will be here with some of the award recipients to discuss. Then at 7 p.m. on Saturday, we are dedicating the Liberian History Channel to Dr. Joseph C. Guanu. So we're going to be speaking about the themes in Liberian history and focusing on our fallen historian, Dr. Joseph C. Guano, who passed away this on August 29. May his soul rest in peace. Those are the announcements for the week. Let's continue. Let me hear from Florence, your closing comments, ma'am.
Okay, if I could speak crew, Dennis, I'll tell you thank you in crew. But but let me just say thank you for giving us the audience, and to your listening audience, we'd like to say thank you for listening, and to my ladies, I would just say let's continue to work together. We are on the right path. We ask God's blessing upon all of us, and I just want to say something to those that will say, "Oh, it's not my problem." All the problems that these ladies are listing, they will not, those are not my problems, But a child that you save today might be your sibling, children, or child, or it might be your relative somewhere down the line. So this Bugume affects all of us.
Everybody.
There was a lady on TV crying for her grandchild that was sodomized, and it touched me, even though that's not my child, but it could be my grandchild. So let all of us come on board and tackle this Bugume. Again, thank you so much.
Thank you. Cousin Elaine, you got the last word.
Okay, and so we just want to again say thank you. Violence in any place, violence of this height, of this nature, the kinds of violence we've been experiencing in Liberia is a form of domestic terrorism. And we do want to be able to go back to Liberia. We want to be able to walk in Liberia freely without worrying about what is going on. We want our people there to feel safe at all times, our children to be able to feel safe, our girls, our boys to remain safe. It's going to take a joint effort of everyone, people in the diaspora, Liberians in Liberia, everyone. We here with like one of my colleagues said, we don't have borders. We're just simply trying to do what is right to help. We could have been sitting here comfortably in America, but we decided to take this big old load on our shoulders to come back home to help. We want to thank you, and we're going to look forward to seeing some of you at the symposium, September 17th. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mohammed Salia Dukle say, thanks, FOL. This was a great program. I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Mohammed.
Lendora Howard Dawara said, thanks, Mansa. Open-mindedness is very important.
Yeah, Lenora.
And,
Yeah, Lindora.
Lindora.
All right. So you close us, Beatrice. 2 words for those who watching us.
2 words.
Uh-huh.
With God, all things are possible.
There you go, to her 2 words. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Well, I want to thank all of you for coming. Let's do this again because the work is for all of us to act. I like how Beatrice said it. Say, why not even more groups? so as to
Exactly.
create the awareness. If we can have 21 political parties for one job, what's about? I'm trying to put my mouth somewhere now, so let me leave that
Uh,
alone.
that'd be
But
so
we
But
beautiful.
thank
definitely
you
will
so
be back.
much for
We
coming.
definitely will be back, Dennis. Popular demand. They are requesting that we come back with our Cash App and Zelle information.
Exactly.
Definitely will be back.
All right. Thank you so much, and thank you for the work that you're doing. Every time we close our broadcast, we like to end with the song that says, "We are all Liberians." We may all come at this from different angles, and we all from different political persuasion, economic class. Some have more money than the others, but we are all Liberians, and that's what binds us. And what
Yes.
affects one person affects all of us. Dr. Sawyer said, "Liberia is a mosaic. We are all a big picture of many parts. If one part is removed, that picture is not complete." So we are all Liberian. That's the message we want to send to everyone. What we should be doing now is how do we work together to make our country violence free, so
Exactly.
that I can walk the street of Monrovia, without any form of violence against me, so that I can be able to go back to Sino and drink coconut water or teach at Sino High or be the principal, which is my dream job. Until then, we close with the song that says, "We are all Liberians." Good night and God bless you.
We are
Thank you.
Liberians.